Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome one of my good friends, Cy Young, who's also an author, and he's wrote music. The guy's performed on Broadway. I mean, this guy's done a lot. So, Cy, I don't want to take away from you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, well, I've had a very varied career, Kyle. My whole desire in my life was to be a performer. And I started playing the trumpet when I was a kid in Kansas City, and I did some performing in front of audiences with that. Then I got to Chicago and performed there, and I went from there to I joined a show called Pajama Game, doing a specific number called Steam Heat, which were three guys, and I got a job doing that. I was on the road for a year with that, and that got me to New York. And I was in New York for 20 years, performing mostly on Broadway and in clubs. And then I started doing a lot of writing. I wrote plays and musicals, and I have a song on the Streisand third album. And so I've got a tremendous variety of stuff there. I went to California for a while. I was a segment producer with F. Lee Bailey on a show called Lie Detector. And I produced a segment about a serial killer, Charles Starkweather. That was really interesting. And overall, I just had a lot of different things that I've done. I've written in I have written in every area that you can write in, including pantoums. I'm not even going to get into that. That's a kind of verse thing. And so I've done a lot of different things. And I just started yesterday. I'm working with a bunch of kids in South Africa. It's called it's a three E's, I think, and the schools, and it's going to be really terrific because the whole idea is I wanted to teach these kids how to write stories first of all, and we start with a very simple way, and then from there I wanted to get them into writing stories and then getting them published in their little books, and then get them to a point where they can actually write and self-produce and have a life, have a career. And now that's way down the line, but we started yesterday. I started there with a Zoom call to South Africa with the president there and the primary teacher, and it looks really good. And we're just going to get started and start from scratch. And just starting, I've already kicked some ideas together about how to show them how to write a simple story. So we start with that. So I'm doing that too. And it's that with the writing, with my books and stuff, it's really kind of exciting. And I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I'm doing the podcasts. And I think I'm going to be starting to do a lot of podcasts because I have a very varied background. Oh, and also Antonino Rocca. I'd like to talk to him, some people about him, because he was, as I was telling you before we started this, recording, Tony lived on my floor in 408 West 57th Street. And so I knew him personally. And he's got all kinds of videos and stuff about it. In fact, we just watching one, his 10 holds, the 10 wrestling holds. You would be amazed at what he did with his body. It was just incredible. He had very strong legs. He used his legs all the time. And that's another thing I can talk about, because I have firsthand information with Tony and information. In fact, I wanted to just to say, Kyle, that how important authenticity is when you're writing. I write fiction. Now, fiction, it can be anything. But the important thing is that when you're writing fiction, the characters that you write have to be sounded and grounded in something. And they have to be sound, and they have to be believable. If they're not believable, you're not going to have anything. But I based my kicker guy, Frankie Scarmazzino, on Rocca. Rocca was just an incredible guy, and you'd see him in the elevator, and he'd fill up the elevator. I'd say, Tony, how you doing? He'd say, absolutely perfect, absolutely terrific. He'd always have that tremendous energy, and it was great. And he had it in the ring, and he had it just sitting talking to me. And so that's an interesting thing to talk about anyway. But he's my image for Frankie, the guy in the book, And my gal, who he's in love with, who he meets in the first book, the first story, is a gal named Mira Strickland, she's in Arkansas, and she helps women who are battered and that sort of thing. And I based that character on my wife, Jane Manning. Jane was a very, very powerful woman and a very sexy, beautiful woman who had to fight men all of her life. Every guy wanted to, whatever. But anyway, so I based this Mira Strickland on Jane, and which made her very realistic and very tough. She's not a sweet little thing. She's very tough. She can just wrap you around her finger and toss you away without any problem. So I have those two characters. And when I write another character, an ancillary character in a book, I always try to image someone that I know. And I've met a lot of people in New York in my career as a performer, on the road and everywhere. Oh, I also worked with Buster Keaton on the road.
Oh, wow.
He is. And so I worked with a lot of different people, and so when I write someone, it's usually someone who I'm familiar with, and I can be very, very realistic with them, and they come across realistic. And a lot of it is humor, because I love humor, and I've met a lot of very funny people, particularly women who are very sharp. They'll cut you down to nothingness, just boom, like that, and that's good. People like that because that's realistic. That's the way it is. So anyway, that's where I am. So and there they give you an idea of where I am. My variety is in writing and in the different things I've done with my life. And I'm very focused on developing my spiritual understanding. That is probably my key right now. And I get up in the morning and I work on that. And they take a couple of hours. And you wouldn't be surprised. Well, maybe you wouldn't. How difficult it is in these days to sit quietly for an hour.
Yeah.
And just let maybe a specific prayer go around in your head. Very difficult, Kyle, because of all the stuff coming at you all the time with television, podcasts, just ordinary life, and things that are happening in the news, and all the stuff happening with our government, our so-called government, I should say. And so anyway, that's kind of, it gives you an idea of where I am with everything. My day is filled with, first of all, the metaphysics of understanding who I am, working to understand more about God. And in fact, one of my books is called The Boy from Nain. It's about the boy that Jesus raised when he went to the town of Nain. And he was being carried out by to the funeral. And he stopped at the bier and he says, "Young man, rise." And I wrote a short story about that. Gotten some really good reviews on it. And so, in fact, I've gotten some interest from a couple of film companies, and I think it would make a good film. And but anyway, so that kind of gives you an idea of what how I bounce around during the day. And I try to start grounded in my consciousness of being focused. It's very important to be focused, and then to have a concept of where I'm going to go during the day. In other words, it's not just a random, "Hey, I'll do this. Hey, I'll do that." It's do this because that's going to feed into that, and that's going to feed into that, and this is going to help that, and it all ends up at the end of the day with, "Hey, I've got kind of a golden arc here of this day," and you try to do that with every day, and that's good. Anyway, that gives you an idea of where I am right now. So. What do you have to say, Kyle?
Well, I wanted to ask you. You said Kicker is a series.
Yeah.
So how many books are in the series?
4 at this time, and we're working on editing the 4th one. But with the 3 are really going strong. The 4th one, and the 5th one is the one I was telling you about. Oh, that name is Tales. Tales. It's something that the government has millions of pounds of. It's deleted uranium. And what they do with these tales, they put them away, they store them away, and you did throw them away before. But now what they do is they're re-enriching them. So I've written that my 5th book is about somebody steals these tales. And they're in like a form of like a cylinder. and there are like 10,000 of them, and somebody steals them overnight, and nobody can understand how the heck did they do that. So my guy, Frankie, who is the guy who's the kicker, who during his off time from the NFL is a private investigator, is called by this friend of his who had bought these tails and wants to use them to re-enrichment. So that's the fifth book, and that's really an interesting idea. Nobody knows about it. You know, they're called tales, so I call this series still the book Tales. So that's Frankie, and he is a tall guy. He's 6'2". He's tough. He was brought up with. He's got three brothers, and three brothers. Yeah, three brothers, and they had to fight all the time because they were in a section where it was tough in Brooklyn, and they'd go out and as a group, the four kids. You know, they were like in the pre-teens and teens. They could put brass knuckles on and go outside and then put cotton around their teeth so they wouldn't get their teeth knocked out. And any of the kids that would come up to them, they'd just knock them, you know, if there was a guy who was smarting a smart guy. And so he learned how to fight. He never lost a street fight. And he has trained himself to be perfect in his kicking. He constantly, the thing about Frankie is that he is very moral. He's a very moral guy. And he's very focused. And that's why he's gotten so far. He has like 3 Super Bowl rings now. He's just a kicker. He kicks after touchdown and kicks the point, the extra point.
Extra points.
And he's a star kicker. He's been with them for about 5 or 6 years with the Giants, and they've gotten I think 3 Super Bowls. And this is something I've made up now. And
right.
But anyway, he's a very strong character. He's very moral. And during this season, he doesn't mess around with women or anything. And his girlfriend is in Oklahoma, in Arkansas. So he doesn't see her. So he doesn't have anything to do with sex or any of that stuff. He doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He focuses on his kicking. And that's what I like about him. Basically, that's what I've done. When I was playing trumpet and I was a kid, that's all I did. Like practice 3 and 4 hours a day and focus on it. And then I got performances for it. And then when I performed, it's interesting. Because when I performed, we have something in theater called a fourth wall. And that is the audience. That you're looking at the audience through the fourth wall. I was able to shut out the fourth wall. I got to the point where I would go, if I was going to audition a song for a bunch of producers on Broadway, I would work on that song and maybe perform it 50, 60, 70 times myself before I saw them. So when I performed this for them, I was really, really sharp. I knew exactly what I was doing. Didn't have to worry about the words or anything. I could focus on my charm, on personality, and that was the key to my work. And I did very well with it. And I wish I'd focused more on it, but I was distracted with my wife and other things like Tony Rocca. But anyway, that's kind of gives you an idea of that area.
And what are the names of the books in order?
They're all Kicker.
They're just all called Kicker?
They're all called Kicker. They have a little designation, reaching the high bar. Each one is a little different like that. And I don't even know I forget what they are myself about that. But when you just go up on Amazon, and here's something very important about me. My name is Cy Young. We know that's a famous baseball player. So if you want to pull me up, Cy Young books, you've got to say author Cy Young. And then you got to say Cy at CyYoungBooks.com, which is my thing, how you reach me. But always say author Cy Young. Otherwise, you'll get Cy Young, the pitcher. And I've thought about maybe I should get a pseudonym, but I don't know how that's going to work. So we'll think about that for the future, maybe. Maybe for one of the new books I'm doing. I'm not sure about it. Anyway. So that's where I am right now. We're promoting all 4 books on the internet, and I'm doing stacking. You probably know about stacking promos. You stack them so that you don't have just one. You have one, you have another one, and another on top of that one. And then these lead to each other. And it's a whole thing of marketing. And I'm learning how to market. And it's great. It's great because when you self-publish, you better darn well know how to promote it. And I'm learning that. It's been hard for me. But that's okay. Just it's a new field opening up, and I have Judith with me. Judith, she's terrific, and she's very good in terms of the computer. She's great because she was taught school, so she's good with editing. She's good with writing, and I have she's a real good backup for me. So my being fecund, in other words, being able to write a lot of stuff, a lot of that comes from her freeing me up from certain things like not having to do all the editing. Like she could just edit a book in like a couple of days. It would take 3 weeks to do it. So yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing right now is working on the Kicker, and I think that I've gotten some wonderful reviews. In fact, Kyle, I could give you some of my reviews, and you could, if we do this again sometime, maybe you could. I don't know if you could do anything with it or not, but I think that they're a good way to contact with people so that they know what you've done and how people see your work, and that's like a calling card, you know. It's not just something I just wrote this book. It's here it is, and boy, this guy said it was sensational. He couldn't wait to to finish, you know, and things like that are very good. And one of the things I'm very grateful for in my reviews, a lot of reviews are, they talk about the authenticity of the characters. And that's what I was talking about with Tony and with my wife, Jane, that these characters really, really ring true because I live with them. I saw them. I saw the effect of them. In fact, I got smacked down with them many times with my wife, not putting her down, but if I did something that wasn't honest, bam, boy, she'd give me a gut punch. And I got used to having a lot of gut punches. So in my writing, I try to do that in my writing. I say, okay, what would Jane say about that? She almost always said, people don't talk like that, Si. Come on, get it like a human being. So I'd go back and I'd rewrite the thing. She'd say, yeah, that's closer. Yeah, that's better. Then I'd write it again, and yeah, that's it. So I was very grateful that I had that background and had that person there to look at my work and say, yeah, this is great, or that's garbage. Get rid of that, you know. And it's helpful. It's helpful to direct you on a line of where you know you're not just dreaming, because I'm writing fiction. I'm writing fiction, and fiction depends upon the individual's consciousness and awareness of life, of character, of reality, of everything. So when you write something in fiction, you're really mirroring yourself, and that's what people, you know, you can write stuff that's outlandish and crazy, but a lot of the fiction, I think, is really based on what you understand about life as an individual. So there you are.
And what is the name? Excuse me. Start that over again. What are the titles of your other books?
I have a book called Onions, which I feel is my best book. It's about a young man who's been into 16 homes, and he just destroy, you know, he just hates life, and he hates everybody, and he hates his parents. They got rid of him when he was a kid, and it's about onions. And he steals a purse of a woman, and she ends up being a friend. She ends up being getting him to work with her there's this. I guess it's the mayor who's very dishonest, and she's trying to get him to you know, behave and everything. So she gets Onions to work with her on that, and she was an ex-circus performer, so she has all that talent. She loves books. She has it in her book, in her home. She has this tremendous library in one room of books, and she gets him interested in teaching how to write, how to read and read books, and also how to play the trumpet, because in her act on the this is her name was, what was her name anyway, I forgot it. Anyway, she her act would be playing the trumpet as she was standing on her head on a horse. And so she teaches him how to play the trumpet. And that's key, because at the end of the book, which is very sad, but it's a very uplifting ending, he becomes a tremendous and great trumpet player. And I play trumpet, and I love trumpet. I got to be pretty good. I could have really gone that way. And I hear somebody now who's really good, and I think, yeah, oh boy, that could be me, because he's really got it. And I understood it. But I got to Northwestern. That's where I went to college. And I went down to Chicago, Frank Anglin, I'll never forget him, down at Wabash, 509 Wabash. I go down there, and Frank was working with me on the trumpet. In fact, I had a job. I was sitting there playing, and when he got a phone call, the guy heard me play. He said, "Hey, I want to come and work in Texas." And I did not want to stay in Northwestern. Anyway, so I learned how to play, and that was the key thing. So, you just learn as you go.
And you had a murder book?
Yeah, Death Load.
Yeah.
Death Load is a thriller, and I wrote a sequel to that called Bone Crunch, which is the same character in a different situation. And in fact, the Death Load has gotten some wonderful reviews. In fact, when it first came out a couple of years ago, it was on the bestseller list for about 5 minutes, and I promoted it for free. But it's a very strong book, and it's about a situation where a man's son has been killed by friendly fire in one of the wars that we had, and so he's an ex-CIA guy, and he's a truck guy. He's got a truck. He's a truck billionaire, multi-billionaire. So he builds these 2 trucks, and he puts all kind of weapons and stuff in them, and he sends them across the country, blowing up Air Force bases. And their goal is to go to the White House and destroy it. And it's really good. It's really interesting. And that's another character, and he's very strong also. And then the sequel to that is very interesting. It's called what is it called? Death Load and Bone Crunch. Bone Crunch. It's pretty kind of a drastic title, but I think it's okay. And anyway, in this one, he's a cop in Phoenix, and what he does is he's driving down the highway, and Highway 10 out there, and this guy shoots by him, and he ends up chasing the guy, and he ends up getting a battle with a fight, and he shoots him. He kills this guy. Well, this guy ends up being the head of a cartel, and his wife puts a hit out on my guy, on him, of $1 billion. $1 billion, 1 billion. So everybody wants to kill him. So what he does is he gets a couple of his friends. He goes into hiding, gets a couple of friends, and they decide to they got to go to Monterrey, Texas, and Monterrey, Mexico, and find this woman, this wife of this guy, and kill her. And the only way they can do that is to become musicians. So my guy becomes a musician with 2 other guys, and they form a little trio, and they start playing gigs and everything, and they begin to be very good. And that's kind of an interesting concept, very interesting concept. But though it opens up for my hero, it opens up a whole area for him, and he starts to learn how to be well, he just does the timing. He does the stuff with beating things and that sort of thing. He doesn't have to learn how to play an instrument. But it's a very interesting idea. I think it works very well. And that's my second book, and I want to do a third book in that series. And then I have another standalone. The standalones are my Christian book, excuse me, which is The Boy from Nain, which I mentioned. Onions is a standalone book about the boy, and the other standalone is called Herman. And Herman is my humorous book. And Herman is the basic idea of Herman is, I'll tell you what it was, or is that this woman lives in California, and she wakes up one morning and looks up in the eucalyptus tree, and there's a sloth hanging there, a sloth in the eucalyptus tree, and her husband's missing, and he's been getting lazier and lazier and drinking beer and all that, and she thinks that her husband has become a sloth. So the whole point of that book is that how she feels that's her husband up there, and it gets into the news and all that. It's really, really funny. So I've got a humorous book. I've got a Christian book. I've got one for a young guy, a kid, preteen, and then I have my 2 series. So it's good. It's the variety is good, and I write in a lot of different areas. I've written cartoons. I've written animation film. I've had 3 of those for the Silverhawk series, which is produced in New York, and have short stories, a couple of short stories. One got won an award in Oklahoma, and then I've written a number of screenplays that have been optioned, and one was optioned by John Wayne, called The Kings of October. It's about the first World Series, which is Cy Young, my namesake, actually played in and won 3 games in 1903. First World Series in 1903. The National League and the American League. That was when the American League was just formed. So that's a very interesting idea too. And he was interested before he passed on, unfortunately, in doing one big film. And this would have been a big film for him. They called, they wanted me to get, I got like 10 scripts to their company, Bad Jack Productions. And it didn't quite work out. I was a little late for John, unfortunately. But that's a good story too. But so I've got a lot of different things that I've done and written in a lot of different areas. And I think it's helped me in terms of the credibility of my stories, because they have to be credible. And they have to ring true, and they have to have possibility of humor and reality in them. And it's fiction. Anyway.
And your website is cyyoungbooks.com?
That's right, yes. cyyoungbooks.com. cyyoungbooks.com. And you can just pull that up, or you can go to Amazon, just say author Cy Young Kicker series. And you can get my books that way. You can pull up Onions. You can get all the books that way. Onions, Boyton Ann, Herman. And yeah, I've got a really great website. Judith is the guy who put that together for me. So
are you on social media?
Yeah, yeah, it's on social media. And we're doing more and more and more. And as I said, I want to start doing more podcasts. I've got a lot of possibilities of what I can do in podcasts. And that's maybe a problem. I don't know. Maybe people just want, health, whatever they have, they pick a specific field and want you to do that. But I've done a lot of stuff. I could go in with 10 different podcasts with 10 different subjects and be credible and fill up a whole half hour probably with it. But anyway, so there we are.
We could spend all day with all the stuff you've accomplished.
Yeah, you're really good. Yes, absolutely. I've been around a long time. That's not necessarily good, but in my case, I think I'm very grateful to have been around a long time and to hopefully learn something. I hope that my writing is getting better, getting stronger, getting deeper, having more morality to it, because the morality to it is very important in this day and age, because it's an age of madness and craziness. And
it is.
You have to be grounded in reality, your own reality, which is really spiritual and God-based. Sorry, folks, but that's just the way it is. And I've come to learn that that's the key. You got to have that. And if you don't have that, you might as well go back to base one and learn. And that's the key.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm going to put all your links in the description to make it easy for folks to find you.
Hey, great.
Cy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I've really blabbed a lot, didn't I?
Hey, you did awesome, man. It's good to hear from you again. We haven't talked in a
Okay,
while.
Kyle. Well, listen, good luck in your move and everything, and we'll be in touch now.
Oh, yes, sir. Also, want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network